Welcome to What No One Knows, the podcast that tells the secret behind the published books, hosted by Lisa Marie Garcia, the Chief Operating Officer of Now Publishing, a full-service book publishing and author PR firm. Through the years in the publishing industry, we've heard the statement over and over, "This is what no one knows," when we interview would-be authors wishing to tell their story. This is what this podcast is all about. And now to our podcast and our host, Lisa Marie Garcia.
Hello, this is Lisa Marie Garcia with the podcast, What No One Knows. Thank you for listening. Today we have published author with her debut book, Giselle McNab. I want to tell you a little bit about her. Her background is fascinating, and her book is even more so. So Giselle McNab has been figuring out life on her own since the young age of 14. Her life was marred and disturbed and troubled, and she had a very volatile childhood. This rocky beginning led to years that spiraled with uncertainty. But despite that, she found the strength and courage to recreate her life in order to better herself and to take care of the life of her two daughters. She received her bachelor's degree from the University of South Florida, and she worked her way up to the senior executive position in finance for a Fortune 500 company. She is Six Sigma certified and specializes in improvement methodologies. She's a pretty amazing community-involved volunteer for Habitat for Humanity and coordinates the One Blood drives. She volunteers for nonprofits, and she fights for people that have the same background as her. She finds her inner peace at the ocean, but her true happy place is at home, where she enjoys cooking and gardening, and she lives with her husband in Tampa, Florida, as they have a happy and blended family of 6 children. So Giselle, that was a little bit more than we normally give away at the beginning of the podcast, but I just wanted to share that with our listeners. Welcome to the podcast.
That's okay. Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited you're here. So I really am taken by the impact of your story, and I'm very excited for more and more readers to buy your book and to read it. I know it's going to be that type of book that we're going to get a lot of feedback from. So I want to, I better tell everyone the title of your book, Finding Beauty Within Evil, and let them know where they can buy the book. And it's Finding Beauty Within Evilbook.com. But I want to just kind of start with the basics. And this is a question we get all the time. We talk about people that are on the fence of knowing that they have a story within them, feeling the passion to want to share it with the world, and knowing that that's part of their purpose in life, but never making that leap and never, pulling the trigger. Can you share how that process got you to becoming a published author?
Well, first, I think that we struggled with this so long and so many times with this title that we recently changed the title, so it's not evil. It's Finding Beauty Within Darkness.
Of course it is. I'm
but that's
sorry.
Okay. That's okay. That's because that's okay.
So sorry.
No, that's okay. We just, like I said, we went back and forth with this so many times until we found the words that actually related to everything in the book. Did you want to talk about the cover? Is that what the question is going to relate to?
Well, definitely. Yes. And I was hoping, though, maybe just starting with, I think it's very fascinating for listeners to understand, how you went from feeling the nudge to write a book to actually saying, yes, I'm going to do it. Because that's the first big leap, right? That you have to make to become a
right. Absolutely. And a lot of times you kind of live in this fear of just not knowing how to start, where to start. And actually I started writing about 10 years ago. But as I would type, it became so overwhelming, and then the negativity would kick in, and I'm like, come on, who am I kidding? Who wants to read about this? And it just wasn't my time. It's only been years that I began coming out of my shell of depression and anxiety. Again, not to speak too much of the storyline, there's a moment in my life where God spoke to me and I honestly woke up with an unstoppable energy. I have spent so many years in and out of therapy, telling my story over and over, hoping, someone could fix me because, I felt damaged mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I was either given a prescription or told my free sessions were up. So writing this book was definitely a struggle. I mean, it had to be, or it wouldn't be genuine. But at the end, when I typed that last sentence, I sat in silence and, it was done. I let it go. I told my story, things that I've never in my life told anyone. And now I'm not afraid or shy to speak on it. It's my platform, and I hope to provide the opportunity for women to say, I want to tell my story too.
Thank you for sharing that. And what you say is the critical part. You said, it wasn't my time. And, there's a lot of people listening right now during this shut-in time that are saying, okay, well, when is my time going to be? I thought my time was the first part of 2020. And now, we're already in September. When is that time going to be? And although, I was thinking that, people need that encouragement to take that first step towards their goal, like your goal of sharing this. Really, though, I think what precedes that, is taking a breath and recognizing is the timing right. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's a very important message. So there was a lot to unpack in what you just said, though, because you did let the audience listening know some of what's in your book and where you came, from it, where you talk about, suffering from depression and, how many hours of therapy and, getting that courage, to come out of your shell. Let me ask you a little bit about that, because once someone reads your book, I think it's really going to help them with finding the courage, because you are definitely brave and very honest and open in what you shared. What would how would you say that your book can impact people's lives with what you shared?
How can I answer that correctly? So my intention for this book was written for young ladies and women that feel trapped in a life they're just not happy in, whether it's because of their upbringing or their choices, and they find it difficult to take that step to achieve their dreams and their goals. And I don't necessarily mean financially or physically. Well, I mean, God, yes, please get to a safer place if it's physically. What I mean is to grow above that emotional disaster where your soul knows you're capable of achieving so much, but your heart is stuck on all that has gone wrong. Society and unhealthy surroundings can keep you in a mediocre stance forever if you allow it. And I say that freely because that was me for so many years, making sure the wants and needs of what people expected me to be was a priority, and not realizing that day after day I was losing myself. Until I just didn't know what was right or wrong. And that started at a very early age in life. And this is why I say I focus on young ladies and women, because we become trapped in this way of life, early on. So I just hope that by sharing my comeback, it can inspire women to get out of their comfort zone and fight, achieve, and blossom to their biggest expectations.
I love that you say that. And I wrote down the hashtag. We're going to have to hashtag this. My heart is stuck, because that's the thing. And it was stuck on, like you said, it was stuck on the past. It was stuck on looking behind. It was stuck on it. And you're the absolute opposite of a victim mentality. I mean, from what I know, of you, I would say that has never been how you presented yourself. It's never been your outlook. You're one of the most positive authors we have, honestly, in our group. We talk about that. We love our meetings with you and all of that. But the problem is, like you said, your heart was stuck. Looking back, is that people do get stuck in all this has happened to them and all the weight of what they've gone through, and they can't get past it. They never get unstuck. and a lot of people, I mean, not a lot, but I've known people that really don't recognize that they're still, that they're stuck, and that the decisions they make for their life, although they might seem like they're forward facing decisions, they're the wrong decisions moving forward with their life because they're not unstuck. So I love that you share that. Would you say that in writing your book that it was a little bit of therapy? How would you say that went when you had to kind of go? Well, you had to go back into different aspects of what you lived through. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult at times. I said I didn't want to involve my family, my children, my husband in everything from the past. So I kind of found quiet times, whether, the kids were sleeping or they weren't home or my husband wasn't home, because I needed it to be my time. And I didn't want them seeing that part of me that I needed to let go, if that makes any sense, because it made me cry a lot, but it was good. It was a good cry. It wasn't anything. I wasn't ready for my children to say, "Hey, mom, what are you crying for?" But now that everything is done, now I feel like I can sit down and talk to them and tell them everything that's going on. It's something about just talking and just letting it go that just gives you this burst of energy. It's so hard to explain.
Well, I definitely understand it because I've gone through that process, and actually the other reason I understand it is we hear this from our authors, especially those that write passion books. We call your book a passion book
Right.
versus like a business brand book or a children's book, and it's you're sharing your life journey and life lessons, and especially with your book. Which is called Find Beauty Within Darkness. Um, you really are vulnerable. So thank you for sharing that. And I would definitely encourage, a potential author to understand that it is a positive therapeutic experience, I would say. Let me ask you some more about your book, and just even
Okay.
more about what you went through and where you are today. So one of the things we know about you is you do have this passion to pay it forward and to help inspire. Tell us a little bit about your plans and what you see in terms of, let's see, it's September of 2020 now. Where do you see yourself in September of 2021 in terms of what impact are you hoping that this book brings, and what kind of elements might be added to your life different than they are now?
Well, I see this book as my platform, my voice, and now that the book has been released, my next goal is to work on building a foundation that allows young women and young ladies to speak up and not be afraid to voice their feelings and pain and dreams and goals. Back in I want to say like the late 80s, early 90s, being raised in New York City, we had community centers, we had counselors. I mean, we just had so much to do. The schools were more involved, and I speak on New York City. I really don't know where the rest of everyone else was in different states, but I feel that now there is a lot of outreach places, outreach programs, and if I can build some kind of platform, some kind of foundation, or just be that person that can build a team to help the next woman, to give them the best advice or guidance, or meet different people that can be a part of it as well, kind of like a fabulous team or something. So that's my focus for a year from now. I'm hoping that's where I would be, and of course work on another book. Speak up, speak out, speak loud. I'm listening would be my go-to.
Already the working titles. See, that is so important. It's so interesting for us when we work with a debut author like yourself, that after they get over the hump of we call it the uphill and building their manuscript and getting the chapters, foundations together and the process and all of that, then they're like ready for the next one. I love that. Okay, well, you brought up New York City, and that